It started with a ruling that should have been straightforward. But in the world of K-pop, nothing is ever just black and white, and this specific verdict has ignited a firestorm that nobody seems to agree on. We need to talk about the massive lawsuit HYBE just won against a YouTuber, a legal battle that was supposed to clear the air, but instead has somehow made the entire situation messier, darker, and way more misunderstood than it was before. If you've been seeing headlines about a partial win or people claiming this is actually a loss for HYBE, you are being fed a narrative that completely ignores what actually happened in that courtroom. So let's strip away the fan wars and the media spin and look at the cold, hard facts of a case that proves just how dangerous online accusations have become. To understand why this ruling matters so much right now, we have to go back to the moment ILLIT debuted, because their introduction to the industry wasn't met with the usual excitement for a rookie group. It was met with an immediate, aggressive bombardment of plagiarism accusations. From the very second they stepped into the spotlight, a specific faction of the internet decided that everything about them, their hair, their clothes, their choreography, even the way they smiled, was a direct copy of NewJeans. It wasn't just casual comparisons, it was a coordinated viral campaign that painted these young girls as thieves. And the leader of this campaign was a YouTuber who turned hating ILLIT into a full-time job. This YouTuber didn't just post 1 or 2 commentary videos, they churned out over 32 separate uploads, each one hammering home the narrative that ILLIT had stolen NewJeans' essence. And these videos weren't falling on deaf ears. They were racking up millions of views, poisoning the public perception of a group that had barely started their careers. This is where the legal system finally had to step in, because HYBE looked at this situation and realized that staying silent was no longer an option. They were watching a rookie group get absolutely slaughtered in the court of public opinion based on rumors that hadn't been proven. The lawsuit was filed, and the core of it wasn't even about winning a popularity contest or proving that ILLIT is unique in a vacuum. It was about defamation, specifically whether this YouTuber had spread false information with malicious intent. The court's decision recently came down, and it was a slam dunk on the most critical points. The judge ruled that the YouTuber had failed to properly verify any of the claims, noting that they uploaded video after video without caring whether the plagiarism accusations were actually true. The court saw through the just asking questions defense and identified it for what it was, a reckless campaign to damage ILLIT's reputation, ordering the YouTuber to pay 15 million Korean won in damages. Now here is where the story takes a sharp turn into the bizarre, because the moment this news broke, social media didn't explode with apologies or retractions. Instead, a very loud segment of the internet immediately started spinning this legal victory as a defeat. You had fans and commentators rushing to Twitter and forums, typing out threads about how HYBE only got a partial win because the monetary award was significantly lower than what the company originally asked for. It's a fascinating, almost deliberate misunderstanding of how the law works, focusing entirely on the money while completely ignoring the precedent set by the ruling. People were celebrating that HYBE didn't get the massive payout they demanded, acting like that was the trophy, but they were completely missing the forest for the trees because the money was never the point. The most damning part of this entire verdict isn't the 15 million won, which is a relatively small sum for a corporation like HYBE. The real story is what the judge explicitly stated about the plagiarism claims. In the legal documentation, the court made it crystal clear that there was no solid concrete evidence presented that ILLIT had plagiarized NewJeans. This is the part that the partial win crowd conveniently leaves out. The court did not confirm plagiarism. In fact, it pointed out the total lack of proof. For ILLIT, this is the cleanest vindication they could have hoped for. The legal system reviewed the evidence, or rather, the lack of it, and ruled that treating these accusations as fact was harmful enough to constitute defamation. So while the financial penalty might have been a partial win for HYBE's wallet, the exoneration of the plagiarism charge is a total victory for ILLIT dignity and professional standing. But let's be real about why people are twisting this narrative. This isn't really about ILLIT or that specific YouTuber. This is all just collateral damage in the much larger, uglier war between HYBE and Hee-jin. The entire industry is currently watching a corporate civil war unfold, with NewJeans' creative director and CEO fighting against the parent company, and every single piece of news is now being weaponized by fans to pick a side. When this lawsuit result dropped, the NewJeans fandom didn't see it as justice for bullied rookies. They saw it as a chess move by HYBE to assert dominance, and that cynicism has blinded people to the reality of what actually happened to these girls in ILLIT. You have people online acting like it's deliberate delusional to support HYBE in this instance, but that tribalism ignores the fact that a group of young performers were dragged through the mud for months over accusations a court just threw out. The timing of this announcement has also raised eyebrows, and to be fair, the skepticism isn't entirely unfounded because the ruling itself actually happened a while ago, but HYBE is only publicly discussing it now. People are asking, why now? And pointing to the ongoing tensions with the NewJeans members and the Adore board as the perfect backdrop for some calculated media play. It feels strategic, doesn't it? Just as things are heating up in the boardroom, HYBE gets to parade a legal win that says, look, we protect our artists from false attacks. It's a valid criticism of the corporate machine, but we have to be careful not to let that cynicism erase the validity of the case itself. You can believe HYBE is playing the media game while simultaneously acknowledging that ILLIT did not deserve the hate campaign launched against them. Two things can be true at the same time. This entire saga exposes a rotting core in K-pop fan culture that is getting harder to ignore because the standard for plagiarism has been lowered to an absolutely absurd level by online communities. We have reached a point where a group can't wear similar clothes, sit in a similar chair, or use a similar synth sound without thousands of people screaming thief. We saw it in this very case. Fans were writing essays about how ILLIT plagiarized a ting 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 sound or a specific haircut, as if these generic concepts belong to a single entity. The court's dismissal of these claims is a much-needed reality check, a signal that the entertainment industry cannot function if every debut is met with a lawsuit threat because someone else wore a wig 2 years ago. It's exhausting, and it's creating an environment where rookies are terrified to be creative for fear of stepping on the toes of a senior group. Imagine for a second being a member of ILLIT, debuting under one of the biggest labels in the world, expecting your life to change for the better, only to immediately face a tsunami of hatred over choreography you didn't even create and concepts you didn't design. The psychological toll of that kind of targeted harassment on a rookie group is immense, and that's why this legal case was so necessary, regardless of the media play narratives. These are real people whose images were stained by a YouTuber chasing views, and for the court to step in and say, this was wrong, this was harmful, and there is no proof of your accusations is a massive deal for their careers. It's a shield that says you cannot just say whatever you want about artists without consequences. And honestly, that message is long overdue in an industry driven by viral rumors. The reality is that this partial win narrative is dangerous because it encourages bad actors to keep doing what they're doing, secure in the knowledge that if they get sued, they might only have to pay a fraction of the damages. It misses the point that the court didn't just fine the YouTuber. They invalidated the entire premise of the accusations. The court didn't say, you plagiarized, but it's okay. The court essentially said, you haven't proven they plagiarized, so stop lying about it. That distinction is everything. It clears ILLIT's name in a legal document, which is worth infinitely more than the monetary settlement. Yet because the internet loves a scandal more than a resolution, people are clinging to the partial win phrase to justify their continued disdain for the group. And let's not pretend this is the end of the drama, because it's barely a cliffhanger. This lawsuit is just one small chapter in a saga that seems to have no ending in sight, with the HYBE versus Hee-jin conflict still raging and NewJeans' future hanging in the balance. Every update about ILLIT will continue to be viewed through the lens of that bigger conflict, and every court case will be spun as a victory for one side or the other, regardless of the actual facts. It's a tiring cycle, and it makes you wonder if the fans will ever actually move on. If a court ruling based on evidence can't convince people that a rookie group didn't steal a dance move, then what will? The sheer absurdity of the plagiarism accusations, the ting 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 sound, the sitting posture, the styling. These were the pillars of the hate campaign against ILLIT, and seeing them dismissed by a judge should be embarrassing for the accusers, but it won't be. The fandom mentality doesn't allow for embarrassment. It only allows for doubling down.